I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Office Hours. Happy Trad-Gender June, because that's what June is. We're just going to celebrate traditional genders, and all two of them, because there are only two genders. So this will make a lot of people happy, and that's just what's going to happen. But I'll talk about all of that and what happened recently in a moment. Do see quite a bit of people in the chat. Welcome, welcome. Let's see who got here kind of relatively first. I think my dear Sound Engraver was very first, but great to see you there. Eldritch fan, Han and Leia. Yeah, the real Han and Leia relationship, not the garbage that the Disney trilogy tried to happen. Nope. Brian Gilmartin, welcome. Big Al, just about to start your own stream in a little bit. Andres Hernandez, stress levels 99%. YouTube won't like this. Probably not. But YouTube's a bully. And, we'll talk about that. Schooner Tuna, welcome. Final Fantasy fan. Ghost Planet Max Inc. 1.0. Welcome to you. Leia Plus Size, great to see you. Let's see, Mr. D-Man, Studio Super, Tricon, Super Otaku. I saw Matt. Well, yeah, Matt Wilkins. Yeah. Don't you love all these flags out everywhere celebrating God's promise to mankind that he won't flood the earth again? Exactly. The rainbow is a symbol of God's promise. We need to stop allowing people to co-opt, talk about cultural appropriation, right? To do all of this. It's time to speak out. It's time to speak out. So welcome to everybody who was here. Great to see you there. Maybe I should start by talking about what happened the other night. So, as I usually do during the week, I cut out at least two or three parts of my stream from Saturday night, and try if I have time, I try and do one or two, and release them as their own videos throughout the week. So I did it once when I was talking about normies protesting versus fans protesting, and that was just cut out from that live stream. And then the next night, I did the same thing. All I did was cut out content that still is up on YouTube in last week's live stream. Cut it out and packaged it as its own thing, saying, say no to pride. Pride's a sin. Say no to pride. I know exactly what happened. They ended up taking down the video for hate speech. I appealed it, and they said appeal denied, hate speech. And it's labeled now. If you are a subscriber of mine and you got the notification that a video was posted, if you go click on that, it'll tell you this video was removed due to hate speech. That's slander. That's slander. And of course, in typical YouTube style, what was hate speech about this? In fact, in the actual video itself, I said, look, I'm not calling for any violence. I'm not insulting any people. I'm simply saying, no, you don't get to dictate your perception of reality to me. And I think more people who feel the way I do need to speak up and say, no, we're not accepting that. That's hate speech, right? Because this is the progressivist ideologues' MO. They don't have a logical argument to make. So they just want to label you a hate-filled blankety blank. So there's nothing in the video nothing at all in the video that triggered the algorithm or whatever, because there was no hate speech, right? No, not even remotely calling for violence or anything like that. What happened though, I immediately got 2 or 3 people, I didn't know you were so filled with hate, prof. Oh, blah blah blah. I'm unsubscribing. Don't you feel bad now? I know, I'm almost positive that it was one or maybe more of those people who decided that they were going to get back at me for daring to, not affirm their delusions about reality and try to report the video. So I don't know exactly how the end processes will work, but I know that, YouTube, they're owned by Google. You've got a bunch of woke ideologue bullies who work here, and that's just known. And YouTube's never really been particularly kind to my channel. It took them over a year to monetize me because I wasn't saying the right things and so forth. They've never been, in my corner per se. So yeah, they acquiesced to that in a heartbeat. Take that down. Again, if it was actually hate speech, it's all still up. It's all still up in my live stream from last week. Every bit of content I said in that video, all it was cut out from that live stream. So it's bullying, straight up bullying. And like any bully, they only go after people that they think they can win in the fight with, right? And I'm a perfect YouTube channel for YouTube to step in and push around and bully like this because I'm not big enough for it to really draw attention to what they're doing. And, I've got enough of an audience. I am big enough to at least have people, 44 people tuning in on a Saturday night. That's nothing like one of these huge channels. I know that. I'm under no delusions on that. But it's people are listening. So I've got an audience, so they've got to make sure that they nix that wrong think. But I'm not big enough to where, like, if they've tried to censor, JP or something like that, they'd get some real kickback and clapback for that. So they absolutely do that. I'm prime for their bullying. I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop. In fact, after tonight's stream, I'm gonna re-upload the same video. I'll probably put a different thumbnail on it just because I don't know how the algorithm works. If they've probably got it logged somehow that this was the same video. Like I did lop off like 30 seconds or whatever to try and change the time frame, and I'll put a different thumbnail on it. But I'm just gonna keep doing this. They are not gonna silence us. And I wanted to wait until after the stream tonight because what they did was gave me a warning, warning, watch your wrong think. And that if you do it again, you'll get a strike and you might not be able to stream for up to a week. Well, I was like, no, I'm going to stream tonight and I'm going to upload the same video. Thank you very much to Owen Lister for this super chat. Very much appreciate that, sir. Hashtag Tradgender June. Amen. Hashtag say no to pride. Absolutely. And we do need to say no to pride. And I'll explain what I mean by saying no to pride and what pride is in a moment. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, YouTube is a spineless bully. They're the real fascists. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic with that, but that is the MO of progressivist ideologues. They need a boogeyman to fight against, and they build up the idea of this boogeyman to such epically horrid proportions that you would never have to think twice about actually having a logical argument or actually approaching this debate in any kind of diplomatic way. No. You're just, Nazis get punched, and then they get to decide who's a Nazi, right? So it's that is their MO, and that's the MO of people in the political system, people in the world around you, and it's certainly in the way of these platforms. This is not a platform where people can just come and use it. YouTube's heavily monitoring and censoring the kind of content they want to come out. Now, they can't with big enough channels. I mean, I was looking at some of the videos from like the Daily Wire's YouTube channel or other, news, even conservative news sites. And I'm thinking they are way more extreme than anything I said in that video. I watched a YouTube short where one woman was basically saying in plain language that Dylan Mulvaney has a mental health condition. Like she physically said, like literally said that. And I'm like, but I'm the one who hates speech. Not that I even think that's hate speech, but I am a prime size for them to push around. And you see it a lot with other YouTube channels. That's the bad side, right? The bad side is that I'm prime size for them to push around. The good side, though, is that I'm also I don't have all of my eggs in this YouTube basket to where I can be bullied by them, to where I can be intimidated by them. YouTube's not a business for me. I'm monetized. I get, if I post a lot, I maybe get like $100 a month or something like that, which is good. Nothing to sneeze at. It's helpful, especially right now, trying to save for a wedding that's coming up fast and lots more to go on it payment wise. But it's not. I haven't built it up into like my main source of income. So a lot of other channels have, and good for them. I mean, I'm glad that they were able to do that. But if you come to a place where you're speaking out against a lot of woke nonsense, and you do it like on a platform like YouTube and you've built up your channel. I mean, we all know of examples of people who were suddenly demonetized because they're not saying the right thing or they went up against the wrong person or whatever. And you imagine, that we know some examples of channels who are like that. But imagine if somebody's got a big channel, it's a big part of their income, maybe they've got a family or whatever. And then they get that little warning. This is just a warning, but if you do that again, if you say these wrong things again, you will get striked and then you won't be able to stream. This is that. Ultimately, go down the road to demonetization. You can imagine a lot of people allow themselves to be bullied into silence or start to speak in code and so forth and not speak out and really say their own beliefs. They allow themselves to be censored. That's not me. Now, I did go ahead and just people were saying when I put out the announcement of what happened that they took down my video, and it's still, I mean, let's be frank, it pisses me off that they called that hate speech and that that's even public. But that's slander, right? That's slander, saying that I would hate speech. That's, but typical, right? I did get a lot of comments on the announcement that I put out, explaining what happened because people are going to see suddenly a video I posted no longer there, saying that, you really need to also post to mirror sites. There's Rumble and Minds and all this kind of stuff. I did look into those a couple years ago. I think it was 2021 when that stuff really got underway. I think I did look into that, and I even started a couple accounts. I went back and looked at my BitChute account, and I hadn't touched it in a couple years. I was kind of mirror uploading and things. One of the reasons why I never kept up with it though is because I didn't at the time have even like real high speed internet. So uploading a video for me at that time was like a good hour process, if not more. And I couldn't really justify the time or energy to make sure that I uploaded my video to YouTube and then re-uploaded it on another site and so forth. That's not an issue anymore. I'm able to upload pretty quickly now. So I did go ahead and reopen the BitChute account. It's got like 5 videos on there, but I did go ahead and put up the video. It's on there right now. The one that they took down for hate speech, that's up there right now. So the BitChute link is in the description, but I'll put it in the chat here as well. I know it's going to be a long road of building up a audience on BitChute, anything comparable to what I've got here on YouTube, because a lot of people, myself included, some time ago were like, I don't want to fool with a whole other website or a whole other platform. I get it. I finally came to the conclusion that it'd be wonderful one day to really be able to leave YouTube behind. That day's no time soon, I don't think. But I did look at all the other sites, and BitChute's the one that I think is the most user-friendly, or at least similar. It really does look like an alternative specifically to YouTube. Some of them, I think Rumble is kind of like Twitter, YouTube meshed or whatever, or maybe I'm thinking Minds, I don't know. I also see a lot more people, a lot more of the YouTubers that I follow myself on YouTube also have their accounts on BitChute. So that's why I recommend BitChute. It's just like YouTube. It takes you 2 seconds to open a little account for yourself. And I would recommend that you follow, hopefully subscribe to me on there, but also other YouTubers that you like who speak out along the same lines, who, any day now, you never know when you can hear this person was demonetized or taken off, YouTube or whatever. For me, it's just about, I won't be silenced. If I lost the YouTube monetization, yeah, that would stink, especially right now trying to save for a wedding, but it's not going to break me like it would somebody who really had this as a crucial part of their income, So no, I'm just not going to be silenced. No one's going to warn me against hate speech or have the audacity to call what I say hate speech, because I'm going to explain what I'm saying here in a moment. But I just wanted to get through all of this first. You have to speak out against it and not let them silence you, because I think that's the problem. That's what's gotten us this far. That's what's allowed something like Pride Month to develop to the point that it has. I made the point last week and in the little standalone video that I put out that they decided to try and take down, was that, this whole idea of, Pride Month, for example, it snuck in the wolves' clothing, or the sheep's clothing rather, that these wolves snuck in on, was, hey, just let people live their lives. Let people do what they want to with their own lives. And a lot of people thought, well, okay, fair enough. Like I said, Steve wants to wear a dress and call himself Sally. I mean, whatever. What am I going to do about it? Okay, do it. But they don't just want to live their own lives. They don't. They want your approval, your engagement, your attention. And here's how I'll explain that a little bit differently for the sake of this video, this live stream. Let's look at the idea of Pride Month. All right. Dennis Prager talked recently a little bit about this, and people like Michael Knowles and whatnot have said this as much as well, but I want to go a specific area with it. It's not pride that's really at play here in Pride Month. Pride, as we know, is a sin. It's the worst of the 7 deadly sins. It's the sin from which all other sins flow. It's the seminal sin of Satan in the Garden of Eden. Even before that, Lucifer's fall, we hear about in Isaiah. Pride is a sin. And then you'll hear people say, well, obviously that's not what we mean. We mean pride because, you can say pride. And I get people's how they think this. This isn't really what pride means, but we do use pride, the word, in a different way. Like I take pride in the YouTube channel that I built up, right? That doesn't mean that I'm taking an inordinate amount of pride necessarily in my channel, thinking that I'm greater than God or greater than others. No, it just means that if you do anything, if you do good work, I mean, the Bible says do whatever you do unto the glory of God, So you want to do any work that you do, you take pride in it in that respect, just meaning that you're doing the best work that you can, or you're doing the best that you can be. You're being the best you can be in this role or whatever. And people might say, well, that's all they're talking about. They want to take pride in who they are. You can't do that, though. I can't take pride in having joint deformities and being arthritic. First of all, it's a weird thing for me to take pride in because it's a disorder, but I didn't do that to myself. That's just how I was born. I can't take pride in being a white guy. I can't take pride in being a male because I didn't do that. I was just born like that, right? So you can't take pride in something that you are. And I do believe that people are born with propensities for this or that, when it comes to LGBT and T. But they can't take pride in it. It's nothing they did. So they don't want this month to celebrate their pride. What they want this month is your attention. They want you to celebrate them. That's what Pride Month's all about. It's not about just living their lives the way they want to live their lives. It's not about equal rights or any of this nonsense. It's about forcing you to give your acquiescence and celebration to them, forcing you to learn about their lifestyle, and forcing you to get your kids to grow up. And why do they want your attention and all of that? Because they're living a lie. Think about all of the energy and time you'd have to really put into convincing your mind, if you're born a man or a woman, convincing your mind that you're actually the opposite sex. You'd have to pour a lot of time and energy, because that's gender dysphoria. That's a disordered mindset. That's not something we should encourage. That's something we should have compassion on people for and help them with. But you'd have to pour in a lot of time and energy to really get yourself to believe your own delusion. So you'd have to make sure you're dressing, make sure. This is why they demand people call them by this name, demand that people use their pronouns, because it's not enough for them to spend time on getting them to buy their own delusion. They need to recruit the people around them to also spend time and energy getting them to believe their own delusion. That's what Pride Month's all about. It's about desperately trying to coerce and force people to play into their delusions. And social coercion is nothing we should respect or celebrate or honor. Social coercion is something we need to stand up against. So when I say stand up to pride, say no to pride, it's say no to social coercion. It's not go storm somebody's house or not let them do X, Y, and Z. I mean, you'll never be able to stop Steve from wearing a dress if that's what he wants to do. But you can say, I will never, ever approve of that. I have just as much right to disapprove of your lifestyle as you have to live it. And you'll never take that away from me. That's what progressive ideologues cannot stand. Oh, this is hate speech to them because you're not shutting up and letting them do what they want to with your life, not with their life, with your life. That's what Pride Month's about, and that's what we need to say no to. Let me get a couple of these super chats here. I really appreciate this. Divinital Kayan for $5 said, to help with the wedding, as an artist, I'd like to offer my services to draw something as a girl for you to the bride. As a gift to you to the bride. I thought you were talking about drawing me as a girl. I was like, all right, funny guy. No, sorry, I got it now. To draw something as a gift for you to the bride. Anything you'd like. Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that, Divinital. I don't know. Shoot me an email. Come up with something good. Appreciate that. Matthew Flynn, the Gladiator of Kaun, for £5, thank you very much, says, you can't take pride in something you didn't put effort in to achieve. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even if let's say, even if you could take pride, let's say a trans person, because I don't believe trans people are, a trans person, I don't believe a trans person is real. I believe people with gender dysphoria are real. But let's say somebody who believes that they're a trans woman or trans man, let's say they spend a lot of time building up that lifestyle. And they want to say, well, I'm proud of the lifestyle I built. I'm proud of the friends and the connections and the name and the identity I've made for myself. And if that's what they were proud of, you still don't have a right to force other people to be proud of that for you, right? I have no right to force people to be proud of the channel that I created. I can't force people to, if I make something or, Divinital Kayan, you do some art, you can't force people to take pride in your art. It's something you decide to do. You can't, no. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work on any level. They have no argument, which is why they need to shout everybody down as hate speech, as hate-filled people that they shouldn't even have to construct an argument against because they're so clearly, hateful. It's kind of like, we're seeing this was the same kernel at play. This was the same method at play with the Trump, what was it called? Trump syndrome. I can't remember the Trump the Trump rage syndrome, but this is like, and you can not like Trump, that's fine. But it was the idea that if Trump said the sky was blue, the sky's not blue because Trump said it was. It was just like, triggered, boogeyman, everything about boogeyman is evil. So we don't like anything boogeyman says. And we don't have to argue against our dislike for boogeyman. It's boogeyman said it. So we have to say no to it. Derangement syndrome. Thank you, Francisco. Yeah. Trump derangement syndrome. It's the same kind of principle at play there. Owen Lister for another $19.99, man. You're very generous tonight. Thank you, sir. What exactly causes gender dysphoria? Is it cause maybe one boy likes more feminine things and a girl that likes more masculine things, or is it a little bit more complicated than that? I'm generally curious. That's a really good question. Really good question. Okay. Now, I'm no expert on this. You'd have to talk to a psychologist to really get, but I do know some things here. I do believe that there are, I wouldn't fight against at all the notion that somebody could be born feeling like they're a different gender or something like that. As I said in my last stream, in my last video, there's instances of people. The example I used before is like someone feeling like their arm is not a part of them. Their arm is this foreign thing on their body, and they're desperately wanting to cut it off. That's a thing. That's a psychological condition. And so people can have that, really happen. And I don't know, maybe some people are just born with it because people are born with all kinds of disorders. That's a thing. We live in a fallen world where people are born with, disordered things that need to try to be made to be put right if possible. But I do know this. I know that our culture is getting far more conducive to allowing others to influence people. Like the example I said a couple of weeks ago, there's no such thing as a trans kid. As I said, there are kids who get to puberty, and that's a rite of passage. That's part of growing up, especially in the world today. It seems like it gets harder and harder for kids to try to figure out who they are. Suddenly you've got a child needing to not just be mom and dad's child, but their own person and figure out that identity. What are they good at? What are they going to be? What do they even want to be? What are their dreams? That's a real struggle. And we've got a lot of these transgender groups who are very predatory, who come in and say, well, maybe you're feeling so just dis-ease about your identity because you're actually, maybe you're actually not really a woman, or maybe you're actually not really a man. Here's this community here that's ready-made. It's a ready-made community that will accept you so long as you agree that you're not your gender. So long as you agree that you're not, and then if you have to start, and you have to pay your dues to join that club, right? You have to start dressing a certain way, call yourself a certain thing, and ultimately they're pushing now, of course, to let children actually get gender-affirming surgery, which is insanity itself. We are living in insanity, in an insane world where any company or any person tries to put up with it. That's straight up child abuse. We need to be very specific with our language. Allowing your child, a child, to and encouraging them to dress as a boy or a girl if they're not a boy or a girl, that's child abuse. That's child abuse. We need to call it like it is. Call it like it is. It's child abuse. Stop pussyfooting around the issue. Stop saying, well, I don't want to say anything because whatever, I don't want to rock the boat, No. That is child abuse. Speak up for it. Say it. Stop letting them bully us down and scare you into silence about it. In whatever context of your life that would look like, Maybe it's somebody at work who demands you use this pronoun or that pronoun. Simply tell them you're not going to do it. I won't talk to you anymore if that's what you want, but I'm not going to call you your made up name. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this, We just need to say no. And there's nothing hateful about that. They'll call it hate, but there's nothing violent. It's simply saying, no, not going to do that. Not going to do it. Not going to affirm these things because you have a right to stick to your beliefs. I said before that, especially with the idea of a trans thing, that's a religious belief. That's somebody believing that they can somehow spiritually, or however they want to call it, if they don't want to use the word spirit, be a different gender than what they were biologically born as. Well, that's a lot of faith in that specific belief to believe that. That's a religious belief, and you don't get to push that on people just as much as I couldn't push my religion on you. So you don't get to do that. We need to stop them in their tracks. And we're seeing that. We're in culture right now, like I said, because of the Bud Light thing, the Target thing, Kohl's, what else is going on? Disney is certainly getting some pushback. We need to keep that momentum going. It's interesting. I don't know how it'll work out right now with all of this. I hope the momentum keeps up. Right around this time of the year, in the summer, like right around July 4th or, a little bit before it in June right now, up to like September, my birthday, I really like to read up on colonial America history or Revolutionary era history. That's just a hobby of mine. It's not something I didn't major in that or anything like that. I don't have the degrees in that per se, but I've just always been sort of an armchair historian in that. I love that kind of era. And I do see parallels, when the Sons of Liberty were trying to get people rightfully angry about different rights that were being taken away from them, Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, John Hancock, they were trying to keep people angry, not because they're trying to emotionally manipulate them, but they would often say, look, you can't have a short memory about these things. And it's so easy to have a short memory about these things. And one of the things that I was reading Jeff Shera's fictionalized novel. So we're in Samuel Adams' head. Samuel Adams' head. So I don't know if he ever wrote letters like this, but it makes sense. Saying, look, it's the most terrifying thing to me is that Britain, there'll be a lull in between their attacks on freedom, and people will suddenly just kind of get comfortable with it. And just, it's not that bad. I don't want to rock the boat. I mean, yeah, they're doing this right now, and I really don't like that, but whatever, becoming comfortable with it, allowing things to become normalized is how they keep going. Another step. That's how that happens. Yeah, Kohl's is doing it too. And Lister, Kohl's has their own pride wear. They've been talking about, they're giving money to these places and whatnot as well. And as I said, Adam Post has pointed out on his channel a lot recently that normalization is a sociological principle, where if something's really outlandish, just keep making it present to people. Just keep putting it in people's view. Eventually, no matter how outlandish it is, they'll get a little used to it. It's like a chink in the armor or something like that. You get a little spear tip in your side or whatever, and well, it's not really hitting a vital organ. I mean, I don't have to take the whole armor off to fix this. So, well, what? I'll just kind of move around it a little bit. That's what, and this is what I accuse geeks of doing, because geeks do it all the time. Just roll with whatever abuse they're given from franchises. But normies have stood up and said, no, we're not doing this. Just the world at large has stood up and said, no, we're not doing this. And I hope that momentum stays. I really do. I hope that momentum keeps going, because that's how we'll see change. And the change isn't about coercing, again, it's just saying, no, you don't get to change reality. You don't get to change the status quo. And we do need to stop people from abusing children like this. That's something absolutely we need to fight politically to stop the laws and whatnot, to stop people doing that 100%. I got some more stuff to say here. Let me just check into the chat there. See if I missed anything there. Spidey Rules saying, I guess it's more of a cult. Yeah, definitely. It's a very cultish behavior. I saw Sound Engraver say something here. She'll fuss at me if I don't if I ignore her. Oh no, that's right. You said, excuse me, can you stop eating? I don't like mouth sounds. Your eating offends me. Yeah, Sound Engraver does got that gender dysphoria. Misophonia. Gender dysphoria. Sound Engraver doesn't have gender dysphoria. Not at all. All right. I think Spidey Rule says Britain arrested a guy for hateful tweet, yet they looked the other way when grooming gangs were kidnapping children just because they were a protected religion. I didn't hear about that, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Americans are doing that. American governments are doing that. It's crazy. It is absolutely absurd. And so I thought about this when this happened with my channel. And for me, in my mind, it's not really much of a jump, because I talk about mythology and how they affect culture and our individual psychologies. And gender deconstruction is a detriment to culture and our individual psychologies. And I've made that connection a long time. So for me, it's not like any kind of jump for me to suddenly start talking about these moral issues, which are straight up moral issues. But I also decided, you know what? I'm just not going to care about it anymore. I'm not going to worry about making distinctions. I used to do this, and some subscribers might not like it and might leave, and that's fine. I'd understand that. But I used to really try to make this channel distinct from any of my religious or political views or whatever. I've decided not to do that anymore. Because I don't. If the other side was playing fair in doing that, then that would be one thing. But I got to thinking, like, for example, you think about actors. I don't care what your politics are. I just want to watch, you in the movie or whatever. And then at the same time, I start to really appreciate so much people like Dean Cain or Kevin Sorbo, or, people who will speak out about daring to say that they're conservative or that they're Christian or whatever, daring to do that. And I think that we're facing such an outlandish attempt to other anybody with traditional values that, no, people with traditional values, I think, need to step up and speak out. So, and I thought, you know what? I lose subscribers all the time. I lose subscribers for saying mean things about the movie that certain fandom menaces want to support. And if that doesn't bother me, it's certainly not going to bother me to lose subscribers because I step out and call baby killing what it is, baby killing. Our call for people to stop allowing poor people with gender dysphoria, to mutilate their own bodies. Certainly not allowing children to do this. I don't care. It needs to be spoken out against more often and by more people. So yeah, I'm not really going to make that distinction so much anymore. Still going to talk about all the stuff I usually talk about and contextualize it whenever I can in a good mythological way, but it needs to be spoken out against. I'm not going to censor myself, even myself. I'm not going to let anybody else censor me, but I'm certainly not going to censor myself. And I do appreciate everyone who has commented, on my announcement, or commenting here. I know I can't read all of your comments, obviously, but I really appreciate seeing them, when I look down. I appreciate the support. I appreciate people who, even if you don't agree with me, just support the idea somebody should be able to say these things. It's clearly not hate speech. Clearly not hate speech. That's just a bullying tactic. But you should be able to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to let you force your perception of reality on me. And I'm not going to let you force me to confirm your delusions for you. No. And more people need to do that. More people need to do that at their jobs, in their homes, certainly online, and so forth. So I do have the BitChute channel that I'm going to spend a little more time with, because I've just like got a handful of videos there and maybe like my profile, artwork for the Professor Geek thing here. But I need to spend a little more time learning BitChute, but also beefing up the channel a little bit more. I will start every time I post a video here, I will definitely post it over there. So I will I'll probably even post my, once these live streams process and whatnot, and it gets to the point where I can download it, I'll probably just post that over there as well, because I want it to truly be a mirror channel. So that, if they ever decide to bully me to the utmost and cancel me on this platform, I've got the other one. And it'll take a while, but I do hope to build up the audience over there somewhere comparable. So I would appreciate it. That's one thing you can do to support me, is to open up a BitChute account, subscribe to me over there. I'll throw the link in the chat again, but that's some place where they'll never be able to touch me. For now, anyway. Yeah, diversify your bounds, my friend. Slav says, yeah, exactly. Leia Plus Size said, did you hear about the X-Men Hellfire Gala? Oh, I'm missing this. Hang on. The chat bumped up. X-Men Hellfire Gala being brought to life at this year's Comic-Con. I did not. No. Don't know anything about that, but I assume it's all about, I assume that'll play into Pride Month nicely, if that's what they're doing. Yeah. Daniel Heron, I was joking when I called you the hate monger. You never called me the hate monger. Good old Daniel Heron. Sound Graver says, funny how outlets like CNN call the backlash against corporations as conservative backlash. The wool is no longer over our eyes. The progressive ideologues, their playbook has always been to try to minimize any dissent. If dissent gets loud enough to where they can't ignore it, they will try to minimize it as just a fringe. Oh, that's those MAGA extremists over there, and that's absurd. Obviously, if someone, I'll give you an example. I think I've talked about this before years ago on the channel, and I'm not necessarily speaking in support of either of these politicians necessarily, but I remember when George W. Bush was in office. I forget what the topic was, but he said in a speech, he said, look, I understand that there's opposition to this issue. I forget what the issue was. Maybe it was something about the Patriot Act or something. I don't know. But he said, look, I understand there's opposition to this issue. I understand that some people in the country, some people, here in Congress or whatever. He said, but look, I'm the decider. I'm the president. I'm the decider. So I'm going to choose the thing that I believe is right, Now, obviously, if you disagreed with him about whatever that issue was, clearly you'd be angry, right? Because your side's not winning. But you can't really be, and people were pitching hissy fits that he used that language. He said he's the decider. Well, that's the way the government's set up. The president does have that power to decide on stuff like that. So that's what's wrong with what he said. You can not like what he said. You can be mad at his opinions. You can want to fight against politically his stand. That's fine. But you can't, it was just the audacity of him to say he's the decider. Now, fast forward to the Obama years. Even if you like Obama, I just think it's objectively true that he was one of the most arrogant presidents we had when it came to any opposition. If opposition existed, he would not acknowledge it. When it finally became so strong that he had to, like the midterm election, whatnot, he would say the most arrogant, condescending things like, well, I guess it's my fault because I haven't sufficiently explained my policies, because they're so great that if people just understood them, of course they'd agree with me. There can be no logical dissent to my side. It's like, how arrogant is that? But that's what we see with progressives even now. Like with Pride Month, for example, if you dare to dissent from the agenda, the Pride agenda, well, you're a MAGA extremist. You're conservative fringe, or this kind of stuff. No, we're just people who disagree with you, and there are a lot more of us than you'd like to try and make it out to sound like. A lot. And I think that we're seeing so many people now. I mean, I think that's the Bud Light boycott, as shocking as it is. It kind of makes sense. This is how when Trump was first elected president. You think back to the days after the election, there was just shock and disbelief on the left's side, on the news sites, from the left, or the Hollywood, certainly, like, how did this, we were very clear telling you people who to vote for. We were very clear telling you what to think. How could you let this happen? And it became a little bit of a wake-up call that you don't get to bully people. You don't get to just force people. And that's what they were doing for so long. And for a long time, people just accept it. Whatever, say what you want. Whatever. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. As long as I'm not going to rock the boat or whatever, and I've got a little comfortable area here, whatever. And at some point, enough just gets to be enough. And you see people, whether that was, and there were some articles talking about it, like, especially people in the country, I think they were looking at demographics. I don't remember the details of it, but they were saying that was like maybe one reason for Trump being elected, when the media was so obviously, in the culture, that they owned, was so obviously dead set against him. And I think that we're seeing that with Bud Light. I can, from a leftist progressivist ideologue's perspective, like Alyssa Heinerschy, from her perspective, I can see how she'd be like, what in the world? I mean, honestly, getting Dylan Mulvaney to have his face on a Bud Light can isn't such a huge step into crazy town from all the other steps we've already taken into crazy town with our culture, right? It wasn't like some amazingly jump forward. It was just that one little straw that broke the camel's back. And especially with something like Bud Light, that was their primary customer base was, as they want to call them, fratty or whatever, but, traditional men, beer drinkers, women too or whatever, but it was very much people with traditional values and traditional beliefs and whatnot. And it was just that one straw that broke the camel's back, and then it became a huge backlash. So there are a lot more of us who disagree with them and think that this is nonsense than they would like to believe. But they've poked the bear too many times, and people are standing up and saying no. For whatever it's worth, my channel is going to continue to say no all the time, and I encourage other people too. I'm using examples like, you can, whatever, if you don't like Trump, fine, but I'm just using examples. But we need to say no to the nonsense, say no to the woke nonsense, vocally, not just sort of online anonymously. No, vocally, in your life. Don't play into people's delusions. Don't let them do this. One lister for $9.99. Man, thank you, sir. Boy, Bud Light is going to have some hard times when July comes around, especially on the 4th. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Adam Post has done a really great job kind of following the story. I on one hand, I think it's kind of silly when people won't read news articles themselves, so they have to go to YouTubers to get YouTubers to read them to them, unless it's somebody with an actual expertise who's giving you an actual expert's commentary. And Adam Post is an expert in marketing, so I do like to kind of follow his readings of these things, even if I don't agree with some things he says. Whatever, I think his channel's growing, and I think it'll get there. But he talks about they're hoping it doesn't last the summer, right? Or if it does go through the summer, maybe it's over at that point. Because that's what Bud Light's hanging on to, is the hope that maybe this will end at some point. Maybe people will kind of forget about it, right? Cultural memory will just kind of subside. But as people have been pointing out, once your product becomes a joke, becomes a meme, that's something that cultural memory doesn't just subside from so easily. So yeah, Memorial Day was a big hit, and yeah, I'm sure July 4th will be another big hit, and so forth. So yeah, I've never been a beer drinker myself, so that wasn't something that I could really participate in boycott, because I'm already not buying it. But Target, as I said before, I'll never set foot into another Target store ever. And it's quite hilarious what's going on with Target, because, well, even with Bud Light to a certain degree, not only have they upset their actual customers, but then they upset the LGBT people who were supporting them, because they're not supporting them enough. And, people get into the funding that they get for having a right score, and diversity and so forth. And diversity in the kindest sense, diversity is just, I don't believe in diversity. Diversity is not necessarily bad if it comes about organically or whatever. I don't think we should be afraid of diversity, but diversity is nothing to celebrate or encourage in businesses, schools, or whatever. Now, they think, a good-hearted person might think that by encouraging or celebrating diversities, this is what they think. They think that they're giving opportunities or a voice to people who have been disenfranchised and not had a voice. That's not really what you're doing. By encouraging diversity and all that kind of stuff, all you're doing is disenfranchising some to give people a voice who maybe didn't merit a voice, right? Now, what I mean by that is in this kind of context, I'm thinking about, for example, like schools, universities, the world that I work in, schools needing to meet a certain quota of diversity, and their students' ethnicities are, all this kinds of things. And if they meet a certain, quota or whatnot, then they will receive funding. And as I've taught for over 10 years now at multiple different universities. And I've taught, like, let's say, an opening intro college level class. And I would have some students from, whatever, one or two or different Asian countries, for example, other countries too, Middle Eastern, whatever, but let's just say, Asian countries. And these students would be in my college writing class with other students from high schools in the area or whatever, who graduated, like, honors level English. For whatever reason, they didn't clip out of, my required college writing class. So they're in there, and they're in there with students from other countries who literally just started learning English like that last summer. Universities will bring over students and put them in sort of like an English boot camp style month or two, and then just drop them into a writing class. They're still trying to come to terms with what's a subject and a verb and their agreement in a sentence. They're still trying to come to terms with the most basic fundamentals of the English language. And they'll drop them into lump them all together with students who've, grown up and done what you can't teach both of those types of students. Both of those types of students cannot learn at the level that they should if you've got them in the same class. And universities don't care, whatever, especially if you're like me, you're an adjunct. Here's a peanut, go do it, figure it out. They get that sweet diversity money. That's all they care about. So pushing diversity causes way more trouble than anybody might imagine that it solves or fixes or anything like that. Looking down here, the chat, Ghost Planet Max says, I've walked away from mainstream entertainment and comics for anime and manga, Full Moon, B-movies, and more alternatives. Yeah, I'm still working my way through good manga, or good anime, rather. Kind of slow at it because I don't have a lot of time to spend at leisure, So when I get a little bit of time, leisure time, with taking care of my daughter, my time with Sound Engraver, my jobs, 3 or 4 different, little jobs that I'm trying to, that I teach and tutor and all these kinds of things. So when I do have time for my own free time or whatever, I get to choose, am I going to watch something or play something? And it means I go through things slowly. I have started game-wise, though. I said I made an announcement video around New Year's saying I was going to do some more game streams this year. And you're probably thinking, where are they, bro? They're coming still, I promise. One of the things that happened, though, I put out a poll asking, for people who were interested in the game streams again, would you rather see me start a new game, or would you rather me go back to KOTOR, which I never even finished? And I was surprised that a lot of people really wanted me to go back to KOTOR. And then I was kind of faced with the idea, well, I don't want to just finish that last fight, because some people will have remembered the old streams, but a lot of people won't know the context. And the whole point of doing a playthrough of KOTOR was that story doesn't exist as a novel somewhere. And I want people to be able to experience that wonderful Star Wars EU story that's there in the game. So I looked at, finally, the Steam versions, the mod versions. Right now I'm playing through KOTOR 2, the content restored modification. Finally figured out how to get that to work and got my computer in order for it to work. And it's glorious. So good. Not only the content modification, but also just the look of the game. And I've got KOTOR 1 on there too. Just everything, they went in and fixed the pixels. They made everything look so clear and HD. The world of KOTOR finally looks so amazing. So I'm thinking I might do the playthrough on my computer and do KOTOR from the beginning, because that'd be a new experience for me as well, to play through that first game again in the new modifications and whatnot, that everything looks so much better and whatnot. So that's coming. I did get a super chat here. Thank you very, very much to Samuel Solis, $9.99. Well, thank you, sir, for the wedding planning. Love the hashtag. Thank you, sir. Thanks. Yeah, I hope people use the hashtag. Free to use. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. Sound Engraver says so as well. Yeah, we had our tasting for the caterer, and that was wonderful. Like, oh my gosh, got a wonderful caterer. That food is really, really good. The problem with it is that, we're paying for it ourselves pretty much. Some family members are kicking in a little bit for this and that. My mother's buying our cake, for example, but a lot of things have to be paid for up front, but then some things you pay a deposit down and they don't even want the rest of the money until like 30 days before the wedding, or, a week before the wedding or whatever. And I'm horrible with organization. Luckily, my dear sound engraver, she's not. She's good at keeping things organized. She's good at finances, which is, I don't think we'd have survived as a couple if she wasn't good at that, because I'm just not. But it's still something. It's like, okay, wait a minute. All right, we're maintaining right now. We're paying this off. We're paying that off. Paying that off. But don't forget that we've got these huge, big costs here coming up in a matter of months to pay all the rest of the costs minus deposits and so forth. Yeah, Sound Engraver says, thanks all who are helping out. It's my fault. I picked a dress. Let me put this comment up here. You said it, my love. I didn't. Sound Engraver says, thanks all who are helping out. It's my fault. I picked a dress that's divine, but yeah, you can call me a pitiful woman. I won't say how much the dress is. Honestly, I don't even remember my dyscalculia. But she had the choice of a dress that was like a few $100, and then another dress that was decidedly more than a few $100. And I told her, I said, pick the one that you love. I'm not seeing the dress. I won't see them until the wedding day, because I don't want to see her in that dress until she's walking down the aisle. A lot of photographers are saying apparently that a lot of couples will have a little photo session between the two of them before the ceremony, seeing each other in their, tux and dress and whatever. And no, I really love this ceremony, the spiritual worship service of the ceremony and what that is, especially in the Catholic Church. And so I went the first time to see my bride, walking down the aisle to our wedding there. So I haven't seen it yet, but I told her, it's like, you get the one that you love, the one that you'll be happy in. Because the worst thing in the world would be to I can imagine as a woman to, oh yeah, the wedding was great. Yeah, no, I liked the dress. I liked it. But it wasn't the other one, So. Slav says, be real with me. If it were up to you, would you have preferred to have just gotten married in a court instead of spending all that money? Not in a court, but it's funny that you say that, because even Sound Engraver agrees with me. I was like, you know what? Couldn't we have just eloped? In the Catholic context, going through the Catholic marriage prep and then just having a quiet ceremony with the priest or whatever, be a whole lot cheaper. That's for sure. Whole lot cheaper. So it's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, Sound Engraver's dad gave her a hard time for getting the expensive dress. Yeah, Divinita is right. Her dress makes her look like a princess. It's her special day. We will share some pictures from the wedding. We'll figure out which ones we want to share. So you will get to see some pics of the big day in October. Vince Moore says, I didn't see my wife's dress until a wedding, and that was 27 plus years ago. Congratulations on the upcoming nuptials. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're excited. We are excited. It's coming up fast in one way and then not very fast in another. On the one hand, it's like, oh, is it ever going to get here? On the other hand, it's like, whoa, dang, how many paydays are left before that? Kind of like people who wait for Christmas. Comic Skater, good to see you. Comic Skater says, life is the process of accumulating experiences on the brain. Enjoy the wedding day. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Matthew Flynn for $5. Thank you very much. £5. I'm sorry. Prophet's been 3 or 4 weeks now. I wanted to know if you played more of Skyrim. Funny that you mentioned that. I was actually going to play it the other night. Especially figure out how to switch the camera so I can see my character and it's not first person. I was actually going to play it the other night, and I picked up my Xbox 360 remote because I've got it from my Xbox 360, and the remote wouldn't work, and I noticed the batteries were dead. And Xbox 360 remotes take, as well as Xbox One's remotes, they just take AA batteries. They're not like PlayStations where you can charge them. So I didn't have any batteries, so that's why I didn't play it. Unfortunately, I've got batteries now though. And I was actually really excited to dig into it again because I wanted to have a little sword and sorcery, and or at least fantasy. I don't know the whole extent of the story yet because I haven't played it much. But thanks for asking. I will give updates, and I did get the batteries now, so yeah, I can play that. Andres says, almost said Andreas Katsoulis. Andre Hernandez. Andres Katsoulis was the wonderful late great actor who played Jakar in Babylon 5. Andres Hernandez says, thoughts on Lois and Clark show with Dean Cain. Recommend? Did you know Dean Cain called out by Superman? I do know Dean Cain is I love the stuff he says on Twitter and whatnot. I'm so glad that, an actor speaking out against some of the nonsense. I respect somebody like Brandon Routh. I love him as a Superman actor. He's very, very far left in his politics, but he's never, ever allowed his political views to color his Superman portrayals. And Dean Cain's not even doing that. Dean Cain's just speaking out as Dean Cain. But yeah, no, I do like Dean Cain, and I loved the Lois and Clark. I would watch it back in the day. I didn't get to catch it like every episode by episode. I was in middle school, high school, and didn't watch it all the time, but I really did enjoy it. And I love watching reruns of it now. It does have my favorite Perry White ever. I forget the guy's name. He played as the father and son-in-law with Pauly Shore too. He's got this. He's got a very distinctive name. I can't think of it right now. One of you guys will put it up there. But he's my favorite Perry White ever. Better than even what's his name who did it in the '78 film. He's my favorite Perry White. Perfect. So yeah, I liked and I'd never really watched every episode, like I said, but I have gone through at times and tried to watch it like from the beginning. And I would get busy and couldn't get too far. But I love that pilot episode of Lois and Clark. There's this moment in which Dean Cain or Clark, he's in the city as Clark and he's trying to get a job at the Daily Planet. So he's looking for a story. He's trying to get a story. And he comes up, and I might get some of these details wrong, but he comes up to it's an old theater, and they're getting ready to demolish it. Like the bulldozers are there. They're getting ready to demolish this old theater. But there's this old woman. There's an elderly woman in there who refuses to come out. And so it's holding up everything. So he's looking for a story, and he goes and says, well, let me go talk to her and see. And the police let him in or whatever. I forget if he sneaks in. But he goes there, and and the woman's like, you're not taking me from here. You're not taking me from here. He's like, oh, I don't want to. And she's up on the stage, and he just sits down, and he just talks to her. And you find out that she used to put on shows there. And it's been so long. She's an older woman now. She's lonely. No one really. And he just listens to her. And he even lets her, I think, act out some of the plays or whatever, or give a monologue or whatever. And he just sits there and listens to her. And then afterwards she says, I can leave now. I needed to be heard. I needed to perform one last time. And long before you ever see him in the Superman suit, that is iconic Superman right there. And he gets his story from that, and he leaves. And it was just about not strong arming her out or not, using, I mean, think about all of the Superman strength or little shenanigans or tricks he could have done to get her out of there. But no, he respected her as a person. And I love that. Love that. What a wonderful episode, wonderful lesson to teach long before he even dons the S. So really, yeah, love that series. That was a big answer to that. Dark Admiral March Air for $4.99. Thank you so much. So congratulations. I'm in the exact same boat. Getting married in a few months myself. I agree. Waiting until she's walking the aisle to see the dress. Well, congratulations to you, Dark Admiral March Air. Very much in just a few months. Yeah. Let's see. We're October, so it's a little bit more than a few months. But yeah, congratulations. Good to hear that. And I hope it's a wonderful ceremony. And if you have a honeymoon planned, hope it's wonderful too. Lane Smith. Thank you, Spidey Rules. I knew the name would be something there. I'd get Lane Smith was his name. Yeah, my favorite Perry White. He's my favorite Perry White. Saw some other comments here. Slav said, I'm still debating on if I want to get married. What's that? Or if I just want to stay with my girl and let it be what it is. If we stay together rest of our lives, then what's the diff? Well, I mean, if you don't have a religious, that isn't the Catholic way of thinking. Yeah. If you don't have a religious belief about marriage, then you're right. It is kind of like, what's the diff, But obviously for Christians or especially Catholics, it is a very different thing. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, Lane Smith, my favorite Perry White. And I'm blanking on all these people's names right now. It always happens Saturday night, brain's going. But Jimmy Olsen from Superman Returns. Sam Huntington. Is that his name? Sam Huntington, I think. He's my favorite Jimmy Olsen. He just looks the part. As much as I like the guy in the '78 film, the guy who done Back to the Future and stuff as well. Liked him, but he looked a little too old for the role, I thought, or just, I don't know. But Jimmy Olsen from Superman Returns, perfect. He's my favorite Jimmy Olsen. So yeah, if you could have like an ideal Superman movie, Lane Smith is Perry White, Sam Huntington is Jimmy Olsen, obviously Christopher Reeve is Superman. And if you're going to have Christopher Reeve as Superman, I think you have to have Margot Kidder as Lois Lane because of their chemistry. But of course, I love Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane and stuff as well. Terry Hatcher had that, especially for the 90s. She really had that. Well, Margot Kidder had it as well. But that spunky, that's what makes Lois Lane such a wonderful character, is that she is a damsel in distress. And that's okay. She needs Superman to save her. It's not a sister doing it for herself all the time. She needs Superman to save her, but she's fearless. You watch the old shorts, the old great classic animated shorts, Max Fleischer Studios. And, there's like a killer robot attacking Metropolis, and she's going to get the story. So she like climbs in the back of it and hides just so she can get that story. Now, of course, she ends up needing Superman to save her because she's not, super strength or whatever. But I love that about Lois Lane and the actresses who did that well. Kate, what's her name from Superman Returns, wasn't that kind of Lois Lane. I don't necessarily think it was the actress's fault. I think it was the role that they wrote. I don't know if the actress would have been able to do it. Maybe she would have if it was but the role that they wrote for Lois Lane in Superman Returns wasn't Lois. It just wasn't real Lois Lane. Spidey Rule says Rick Astley should have played Jimmy Olsen at some point in his youth. Interesting. Kind of see that. Owen Lister says, as for Superman alternatives, I'm slowly getting into Tokatsu, where Power Rangers came from. Yeah, a lot of people are really into the Power Rangers and that kind of style and things like that. Comic Scare, Lois Lane from Smallville. Man, it's just a night for all these kind of brain farts going on. What was her name? The actress's name. She was really good. She was a great Lois. Smallville is such a kind of a I love so many things about Smallville, and I did watch it in the day, but I could never ever give it my stamp of approval as like, that's iconic Superman all the way. Because they went too long with the Smallville concept. He should have been in that costume long before that show ended, and they finally put him in the costume. It did play into the sort of the melodramatic teeny bopper dramas, and stuff, and they did too much of that. But you can always say that show 100% honored the spirit of iconic Superman. Definitely. Tom Welling, wonderful casting. And a lot of the other casting in that was spot on too. So yeah, I mean, I'm not anti-Smallville by any means. Erica Durrance, thank you. Spidey Rule's getting all the names that I'm forgetting. Yeah. So that's really just about all I had for tonight. I am kind of running out of steam a little bit, which makes sense because I just looked at the clock and it's right about an hour. I'm telling you, that's like my, like I have a tank of social energy and it's marked at an hour. That's the capacity I have, and it just so I'm starting to drag a bit. Time to go eat something. I was starving right before the stream. I grabbed a couple bites, but I was like, I don't have time to really eat. So I'm going to go do that now. Yeah, Greg Berlanti ruins everything, definitely. And probably play a little more KOTOR too, because I don't think I've got the brain capacity to work tonight. But I do thank you guys so much. I thank you for the support. I thank you for those who support in comments or whatever. I thank you if you've, again, I'll throw this link to the BitChute again. I really appreciate the subscription over there too. I'm not going anywhere unless they brutally kick me off. But I will go ahead tonight and re-upload the video that they tried to say was hate speech, because it's not. I'm going to change up a couple little things on it to try to get it past any kind of automatic, filter that might be, that's the same video, if it's the same file or same time length or same thumbnail or whatever, But it's up right now on BitChute. You can go watch it. And it's still up on YouTube in last week's stream. So it's clearly not hate speech. But so last thing, never let people bully you. Never let them silence you. Keep speaking out. The truth is objective. And they don't get to dictate reality to us. Absolutely not. Last minute super chat from Matthew Flynn, £5, said, I have an archetype. Oh, man, really? I'm about to sign off. I have an archetype question, but you super chatted, so I can't ignore you. Appreciate the super chat. I have an archetype question. Does the Wanderer always have to be moving, or can they stay in one place for a short time? Oh, absolutely, they can stay in place. I mean, that's look at the Incredible Hulk show from the 70s. That was the whole point of that, right? He's a wanderer, but each episode took place in a specific space. There was a unity of place in the story. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are great stories of Geralt, just in one place or two places. They can revisit the same place. Absolutely. Yeah. Good question. So yeah, good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper and speaking out. Thanks.